Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show y'all how to make these two styles of wire wrapped bead link. So let's go ahead and get started. So in this video I want to show y'all how to make these two styles of bead links, and then stay tuned for future tutorials to see how to make this bead link where the wire wrapping makes the bead cap, which I really enjoy doing. We also have other tutorials for making this style of bead link. And then we have a whole masterclass, a free wire wrapping masterclass here on YouTube and our website, backtoearthcreations.com, where we will show you in that lesson, it's the first lesson of the series, and we go over quite a few different ways of making wire wrapped links. So if you're brand new to wire wrapping or crafting in general, and you want a really thorough rundown, as well as something that you can practice along with to develop your techniques and skills, be sure to check that out. Links for everything will be down in the video description. But that being said, I am using these beads that I had gotten from Adornable Elements. They had sent them to us for June, and you can use coupon code BTECH10 to get 10% off your first month subscription. But these are African turquoise, but you can do these techniques with any of the different beads that you may have. In fact, I think using the same technique but with different beads can get such a cool variation of results. So to start with, we have these little 4mm bicones and these little faceted like 2 or 3mm beads. So quite small beads on this one, but again, use whatever you have on hand. And I'm going to be using 22 gauge wire, but you could use as thick of a wire as what you can fit through your bead is typically what I recommend. And if you're using thicker than a 22 gauge, like a 20 or an 18 gauge, I don't think you necessarily need to do the 2 wraps, but there's no reason not to. It's a lot of it from that point is just based on aesthetic. I personally like to do the 2 wraps on, and what I mean by that is how here there's 2 wires wrapped around. We could have just done a single one, but on this 22 gauge, it's pretty thin, and I prefer to have it be more substantial. So artist's choice, but that's my preference. So I'm going to just scooch our beads from the edge of the desk so I don't make a big old mess, hopefully. And I'm going to do whatever bead pattern you want, just sliding on our beads. And I'm going to start with this oblong loop style because I think it's a good warm-up before getting into this next design, and it's just such a nice technique, y'all. And so for the tools today, you could use these stepped mandrel pliers, or you could use a knitting needle or a mandrel or a pen, just whatever you have. And I'm going to be using the 8mm size barrel on our pliers. And we're just going to do a basic wrapped link. So twice around the barrel I'm going. And now you can see here, perhaps, that this is not going to make a centered loop. So if I want my loop to be centered, I can grab right here on our wire, right past where that link is, and I'm going to bend so that it's like a balloon on a string, or a lollipop on its stick. You want that coming out at like a right angle. And you can see it's a bit gunked up, but that's okay. We can just get our wire in there. Typically I like to do the bend first, but if you don't, that's how we can kind of recover it. And I like to keep my wire here on my pliers while I wrap around once. Let's see if we can, through the magic of, well, not editing, because I'm probably going to leave this in because I'm, there we go. So I have our wire here, and I'm just wrapping. There's once around, twice around, 3, yeah, I like to do just 3 times wrapped around, and that's how that's looking. I'm going to trim off our excess wire. I hold it with my fingers, that way it doesn't ping across the room. And I'm going to zoom in so hopefully you can see what we've got going on. And so that's where we've just snipped, and I want to get in here with my pliers and just pinch that down. And then I'm also going to take it and kind of smush, squish, num, 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 just around in the direction that the wire's going, and that shapes down that little pokey end, or at least hopefully shapes down our little pokey end. So now I'm going to run our beads up the wire. There we go. And from here, I like to eyeball the distance, or you could measure if you like, that our coils take up. And I want to do a right angle bend because we're mirroring from the center of this bead. I want that much space between this bead and where the loop starts. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's good to practice, you know, our aim kind of to gauge how far we should do it and whatnot. So I'm just wrapping twice around. There we are. And then there's 1, 2, 3, and just a half a one to grow on, just to take up the space. And again, I like keeping my wire on the mandrel so it doesn't distort in shape, but I also want to make sure I'm not death gripping it and leaving plier bites in the wire. So we're going to come in and snip, and then I'm going to smush. You can see that end there. I like to come in and, sorry, I'm trying to find an angle where I can do this where the camera also sees. Oh, I always forget to turn my light on. Hopefully this will be helpful. But just butting my pliers up against the bead and then smushing in that little tail of the wire. And so now from here, I like to take just my regular round nose pliers, and I'm going to insert it. Well, that didn't really, okay, here we go, in just one. Both noses of the plier into one loop, and now I'm just going to open my hand like this, pressing my fingers away. I'm just opening up that link, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, and we're going to see it from this angle this time. So from round to oval. And if we start with the same size mandrel for the loop, then we should get pretty consistent sized. So it looks like this one I must have done with the 6mm, and this one I did with the 8mm. So that might be a fun way of making a gradiated necklace, making the loops gradually larger. But however, whatever size you decide to make it, I think it's going to get very interesting results. And then I would just, one of the ways to join the ends together may be to use just jump rings as we have here, using some 18 gauge 1/8 inch aluminum jump rings. Some stainless steel rings or something would look really great as well. And I do have linked down in the video description 2 different chainmail kits that I highly recommend if you're getting into making jewelry, whether you have a background in wire wrapping or chainmail or beading. It's just handy to have some good versatile jump rings on hand, and I really recommend that kit for if you don't know what sizes you like. It's a great way to get to test things out. So that is how to do that, and we go over how to join it in a different tutorial as well, but I'm going to move on now to the square rings, because hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate the jump ring closures later in this video, but if not, we do have it in other videos. So here we can use just some flat nose pliers. These have around a 6mm wide jaw, or you can use some very nice Wubbers pliers. These were sent to us by one of our viewers who had asked to remain anonymous, but you know who you are, and thank you so much. This was such a kind gift. And so from here we are going to take, I was using these like Heshi beads, and I'm going to do 3 beads. And you could change up the different patterns and textures, and like truly, like we could do these 2 beads on the side, but then like a larger faceted 6mm there in the middle, and it would really change the look of the piece. So by learning one technique, wire wrapped links, you can do such a broad variety. You could stock a whole booth or a whole website with just different varieties of wire wrapped links made out of different beads and things. So I get all excited about it, y'all. And yeah, we also sell wire on our website. So if there's a crafter, there's a way. And I would love to hear down in the comments, y'all, what you would make with these different designs, or any ideas that you'd like to see, or any requests for future tutorials. So we've threaded on our 3 beads, and I'm going to begin by giving myself about 8 inches, and we're going to do this first square using just our flat nose pliers. So one of the points of the square link is going to be the core wire that goes through the beads and has, you know, all that becomes the link, because right now we're just making the loop. And so I like to place my flat nose pliers up against that bend and then press a nice sharp bend against it. And then again, I'm going to line up with that bend and press a nice sharp bend against it. And then hold and press. The more consistent we are with our placement and with our bending pressure, then the better of a result that we will get. And now I'm going to do this on the next side. Boom. Just bending up and then placing this in there. Boom. Bending up, placing this in there. Boom. Bending up. And now we have 2 layers wide, which again, if you're doing this with a thicker wire, you may not necessarily need the the 2 layers, but it's good practice as well. And so now, holding on to right here, because it's going to hold this wire stable, I'm going to bend, and I'm going to trade to this side so I can maintain the distance established there. But see how it's a little tricky? Maybe we can hold it carefully like this. Ooh, maybe. I don't know. This is where it's trickier using these pliers, but that's okay. We can do tricky. So there's 1, 2, and 3. 3 is just a nice round number. You can do however many you like. I recommend at least 2 or 3, just to give you space for, you know, stuff to get stabilized. But I'm just coming in and kind of stretching and bending and smushing and squishing. I want it to be as square from as many angles as possible, but sometimes stuff gets weird, and that's okay. So there's those 3. Let's go ahead and slide our beads up the wire. And so what I'm going to pay attention to here is the direction that my wire is traveling. So it's exiting, I'm going to call this towards the bottom, and coming towards me, like it's coming around that away. So I want to hold our bead in place and continue traveling around. Do you see how we shaped it around the side of the bead? And so from here, there's 1, 2, and 3 wire wraps. Let's slide the next bead on. And again, I just want to continue that pattern. There's 1. You can see that wire coming across the bottom right here. And 2, and 3, and then we're going to slide that last bead up. You'll notice here I'm working what I call off the spool, and it's because I feel like it helps me save on the little bits of scrap wire that I end up using. But if you're doing this and this is cumbersome to you, I recommend about 2 feet of wire should be way more than enough. So, and that's, you can get all kinds of crazy with it. So there's 1, 2, and let's do our 3rd bead. So there is 1, 2, and 3. And now here I snip. We're done with this wire right here, unless you want to do something like swirly or something with it. But if you're following along with me to make this link, this is what we do. So there's that. And then I'm going to do the old squishy smush to get that loose end pressed down, and we can check for no pokey bits. And now I'm going to do the other end of this one with our Weber's pliers. So I'm going to grip like this because I'm bending this way. And I want to make it end up being this size. And if I had, though I guess we could have just butted it up real tight, boop, and bent that away. Okay. So now from here, we're going to take this tip and I'm going to bend it. But the tip that I would recommend for these pliers is to use the flat side of your flat nose pliers to press down. And I feel like this gives me a much crisper bend. Just pressing. Again, trying to not death grip our pliers into the wire, though it's a little trickier with these. Like it's harder to mess up the wire with these shape of pliers in ways. And so there's that. But you can see we have a little bit of pooching out here on the side. Perhaps it'll show. That little bit of light coming through. So if we want to make that a little tighter, we could just take it and smush it against the table. I think that might be the easiest way. And so now my nose of my pliers are in the way. So we'll want to just go around it. But you can see, again, kind of poochy, not a very good bend. This is where we can come in with these flat nose. Or maybe we'll try on the table. And I think I'm going to come in off the edge of the table so that I can fit it at the right angle. There we go. Yes, I like that. Now we could go, if you don't do that and you just wrap around, like, do you see how those don't align very well? It's the camera's not making it look as bad as what it looks to my just regular old eyeballs, but we can tighten it up if it's easier. So there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 around each of the beads. 1, 2, and 3. And this is just kind of doubling up on the little, spiral wrap. So you could also have it be, I think on this one, I just positioned it to where it was on the opposite side. 1, 2, and 3. And so let's get our wire snips in there. Boop. And if you're able to see, I'm so sorry for the blurriness, y'all. I really am doing my best. I know it would help to clean off my desk, but may the crafter with a clean work surface be the first one to comment that I need to clean my desk. So you can see this is what it looks like whenever we don't smush it tight, whereas that's the crispness that we get whenever we do. And then this is what we got using just our square nose or flat nose pliers. So let's see if we can tidy this one up just a little. Probably actually with our flat nose pliers. Just getting in there and doing a squish, and then a squish, and then a squish, and then for good measure, just another squish. Love it. So that is how to do this style of link, as well as this style of link. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me during this video. I really do hope that it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, leave them down below in the comments. You can also email us at backtoearthcreations@yahoo.com with any questions that you might have or pictures of your work that you'd like to share. Also, you can tag us on Instagram or whatever your social media of choice is with hashtag craftalongwithvon, as well as just at Back to Earth Creations. And that way, not just us, but anybody searching those hashtags can see what you've been working on. If you enjoy our free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, please consider becoming a YouTube channel member, supporting us on Patreon, or joining our Happy Crafters Club at backtoearthcreations.com. And it starts at just like $1 a month, and then we have some different kit options for if you want to craft along with us with the same tabs and wire that we use in our own work. And all the links for everything are down in the video description. So I will see y'all in our, sign up for our free newsletter, you guys, because that way you don't have to rely on YouTube or Instagram or anything like that. You can just get our newsletter, and anytime we have a new video or a sale or coupons or anything like that, you'll be the first to know. So we'll see y'all in our next video, and until then, thank you and happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.